Hi, it's me, Ellie Orion. My whole life I waited to tell my story, and now I'm ready to walk this path. I remembered my past life, who I was. As Orion looks down upon me, following my mission warms my human heart. I'm here to light the fire in your heart, and now there is no going back. I'm here to remind you, you don't have to hide. As I read the pages of your soul, you can remember how valuable your time is, because we have so little of it. Join me on this journey, you're not alone anymore. Be realistic and expect miracles to happen.
Hello, dear friends. Hello, Ellie. I'm so glad to be with you again with a second.
Thank you.
I don't want to say class, but let's say interview for now. But for me, it's a class anyway. And today we have a beautiful subject, and people like parents, grandfather, grandmother, teachers, pay attention. We are going to talk about education, but the new one, higher consciousness education here and in other places too. Welcome, Ellie.
Thank you for having me. So first question, before we start, do I also see what people are asking on the comments or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It will be under comments.
Perfect.
And or below. And for people who didn't see the first interview, I want to remind you, you just go to this website, p5000.info/Galactic School, and you have the first interview. But if you want to introduce you a little bit before we start again, for people who just connect now, and then we go straight to the subject. I can't wait. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm Ellie Orion. I am awakening mentor, spiritual coach, and I'm basically right now in this era of my life where I'm teaching others how to connect with their inner knowledge, how to understand the strengths and basically the superpowers that lies within all of us. So I also developed an energy technique. I call it energy scan with my 12 Orion guides. So that's maybe the most specific thing about me, that I co-create and I work with 12 Orion beings from constellation of Orion. So I always make jokes that my business, I have colleagues who are not even on Earth, which is of course not something usual for people to hear. And as I remembered my past life in Orion and other parts of the galaxies, I also remember my education. So, of course, it's important for this conversation to also understand maybe the differences. What is there yet to learn from the higher consciousness education, where we should end up basically in the new world. And basically, I would like to maybe pinpoint some of experiences that I had. How do we learn in higher education? What is different in comparison to Earth schools, and what kind of perspective and how are we prepared for life on Earth in galactic schools? Because that's something that is very, very significant and maybe the most important starting point. In galactic schools, children are basically starting their education by acknowledging the soul journey. So that is the first information that is basically given to every student. Everyone is aware of the soul journey and basically what kind of life mission, what kind of life lessons or soul lessons are to be attained and received. So that is why the main fundament in Orion schooling is that we basically just understand that the life is never ending. So there is no fear, and the whole education is not based on trying to be good, so in order that nobody judges you, or that in order that you are accepted by your peers. there is nothing like that in Orion School, because the first fundamental information that you receive is where you're gonna go on. So where your soul is gonna incarnate, and what kind of basically lessons do you need to co-create with the souls who are in your classroom. So the understanding that life is never ending, that the journey is basically starting and it just keeps on this continuous journey, and the life is basically so appreciated in higher consciousness schools, in galactic schools. And the education, and maybe the most important thing that I have learned as young, I call them children because there is no equivalent, a young Orion child, what I learned is that the education value that you receive in one moment, you're going to need it in maybe next lifetime, because the knowledge what your teachers give you, and that's something that's so beneficial to know for education now, what we seed into children or what we give them, it comes to the surface in decades. That is why, for example, we have so many grown-ups who recall their trauma from educational system, or drama from how their peers handled them, or what kind of connection they had with their teachers. That is why it's so beneficial to understand that basically what we give to children as mentors, as teachers, it does stay not with them as children, but it stays with them as grown-ups. So that's something that I understood pretty much as a first lesson, is appreciate your teacher. I'm also going to talk about what kind of differences is teacher on Earth and teacher in galactic schools. Appreciate the teacher, but the sole lesson that we did understood is that the teaching starts in the first meeting of a soul of a teacher and a soul of a student. So that is the first starting point where this soul contract basically is made. I'm just reading some comments. Soul journey, how can we remember? How can we remember our soul journey? For me, I remembered in meditation. So when we are in this basically physical reality, we are constantly surrounded and we are constantly experiencing the physical reality by our senses. What we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch. But we cannot retrieve the information that is so sensitive, that is so outside, vibrating outside our senses, how we experience life. And that is why meditation is only way to receive information about your soul journey or about your life in that way, in that detail. So when we are basically surrounded by our peers and our colleagues, and when we're just living, we cannot remember the past lives. We cannot remember what is our mission. We are so surrounded by basically different influences, which are sometimes stopping on our way of remembering why did we come to Earth. Because one of my missions is that I just remind everyone that all of us, each and all of us, we all did came to planet Earth with specific agenda. Because it's not the point that we basically come here, that we go to school, we get married and we die. That's not the point. The point is to understand why it was so necessary for each of us to sense the such vast contrast of being in a physical body, of having this amnesia that we truly forgot our past lives and incarnations and all the soul missions, and we are remembering it again and again. And so many people are feeling stuck. So many teachers are just striving to motivate their children, and they don't understand how to basically push the teaching style forward. And that's something that for me, it's also very, very important to mention. I am someone who I was basically for such a long time in the educational system on this planet Earth. I was going to school and high school. I am an engineer of architecture, so I got my degree. So I became a part of this educational system so I can understand it. And I can also see the beauty of this system that doesn't serve us anymore. And that is why I'm capable of comparing the educational system of planet Earth, because I am a product of it. And that is the beautiful thing, to acknowledge that no matter how much we want to make this planet Earth more higher vibrating, we are preparing for new education styles, but we have to acknowledge that all of us, everyone who is listening to this video, we are all products of educational system of planet Earth. And as such, we cannot turn our backs and say that sort of educational is fully wrong, because if we are products of the educational system and we are opening our minds, that means that we are now in this period of our lives where we all together, as products of this educational environments, we are now preparing to leave the borders, leave the definition of who basically environment and society told us we need to be in order to be successful and acknowledged and smart and intelligent. And we are understanding, wait, so now another level of consciousness is here. But we are so strong in this need to break out of the borders, break out of this mold, because we have been molded for thousands of years as a collective. And we have defined intelligence and we have a defined education in such specific way that there was no other way to break out of it than to become the educational system and then change it. Because we cannot reform the educational system if we are products of something that's broken. So that is why me as an engineer, I am extremely grateful that I had a chance to become a part, a functioning member of educational system, because then I can basically acknowledge what kind of experience I had and what needs to be changed and in which way it needs to be changed. So I'm just gonna look at a few comments. We understand that Orion schools and Earth schools might be so different. What should we change here? So the first thing is what I remember from my Orion experience. That is something that I will start this conversation with. On planet Earth, we have educators. We have people, we have souls who dedicate their whole lives to be in school. To become a teacher on planet Earth, you had to dedicate many, many years to be in the educational system in order to teach someone. So that's the thing. That is a sentence that I wrote. We have to learn something to be able to teach it. And throughout all decades and thousands of years, we as a collective, we have basically defined someone's intelligence and someone's capability to memorize things in a specific way. When we go back, for example, ancient Egypt or ancient cultures on planet Earth, what was back then considered as the highest level of education or educated person? It was the person who was able to copy many scripts. So repetition, oral repetition, it was just a way. So in any way that person can show discipline and a person can show that he or she is able to repeat scripts or oral texts, they're considered to be educated. That's where we as a collective started. And we have to acknowledge how big of a vibrational jump that is, to just be someone who is so focused on analytical mind, and we considered ourselves as intelligent beings if we portray the usage of that in the analytical mind and memory that we own, that we use. And then we jump to throughout the centuries, the educational system on planet Earth is basically evolving. But even through this evolution of thousands of years, we are just now coming to this understanding that we have to unlearn everything what we have learned. So I find that very amazing that in the beginning, as I said, analytical mind is the focus. But now what is the focus? Is the sensory emotions. It's the soul, the spirit, the body. It all basically comes back to this energetic, to this spiritual understanding, which I have had in Orion schools. For example, in Orion, they taught us that one teacher, that's what I started this conversation with, a teacher on planet Earth needs to be educated to become a teacher, or he or she should have some sort of credibility why they teach the specific topic. In galactic schools, what happens is the role of a teacher is not deserved, it is not worked for, it is just basically the soul who decides to teach children becomes the teacher. So in galactic schools, we have classrooms, and each classroom consists of 20 till 30 students. And the teacher is basically someone who we called mother. So every teacher was called mother. The interesting part is that the mother can also be a male essence. The mother, the teacher, does not have to be female, because the gender is something that we acquired in the physical reality, and we perceive each other as feminine, as masculine. But the teacher, the mother, has one main role, which is maybe the most important difference between Earth schools and galactic schools. It's vibrational education, vibrational guidance. What does that mean? You can understand that many people on Earth, they did not have good educational support. Many were bullied by the peers in the classroom. Some did not have good understanding, or they did not have a good relationship with the teacher. So it's interesting that in Earth schools, one teacher who is the same person, that there is a student who says this teacher is amazing, and a student who says, oh, I don't like this teacher. So it's so funny that one soul of a teacher, one energy of a teacher, can basically connect with students in different ways. I experienced that on my own skin, because there are some specific teachers whom I adored, and they inspired me, and I loved to go to their lectures. But those same teachers were also labeled as boring. And some people did not want to go to their lectures because they felt they don't give them any value. So that in a way inspired me to understand what kind of connections do we as mentors, as teachers, how do we basically connect with others? Because it's specific, it's certain that we do not connect with everyone in the same way. Otherwise, everyone would have the same perception of a teacher, and we don't. So that is the first thing that happens in galactic schools. A teacher arrives when classroom is full. The teacher comes in, students are already here, and then the connection is established. They all open hearts. We all open the first contact with the teacher. We have all opened our hearts. The teacher opens the heart, and then we connected in this energy field where we have become one. That is the first and the most important step in the education and galactic school, to understand you are not the authority and I'm not a student. We are here as equals. I teach and you teach. And there is this higher understanding of value of co-creation. And that is something that we as society have lost, because so many children are feeling like they want to get out of the educational system that we have last decades on planet Earth. So many feel misunderstood. So many children are hyperactive. They cannot even follow. For many, it's boring, the system and the lectures that we as a society give, because they don't teach us what is truly important to become true souls with integrity in physical reality. That is something that we need to understand. That is why I said it's so important to know. To be able to teach, we must learn, we must know, we must have the information of the significance of understanding that we are the physical body, but we are the spirit, the energy layers of our aura, and we are also the soul. And that is something that for decades has been forgotten. That is why I feel so many schools and so many new age and modern programs are now evolving, because we understand, okay, so from the analytical concept of intelligence, we are moving more to the sensible. And the children who, for example, are labeled as children with special needs, have you realized that in so many schools, there is at least 4 or 5 children with special needs? And of course, they're coming because every child is a child with special needs. So and that's something that's so funny, seen from the higher perspective when galactics are basically looking at us. We're always striving in education on planet Earth until now. We're always striving to become exceptionally good at being average. That's what we have been trying to do with our children. And I feel the movement, this new education movement where we are going, is to understand that each person, each student has something so valuable in them that it should not be touched. The best, for example, Earth example for that is, you all know about art schools in the world. So to be accepted to an art school, and I know many art students, that's why I have experience of this process. To be accepted to an art school, what one should do, they basically portray their talent. They have either photographs or some sort of drawings, or they should basically show, yes, I'm talented. But what do schools do? Especially art schools. There are lots of amazing art schools, so this is not an attack. This is just portraying the process of acceptance. So one potential artist gives the drawings to a few people who are basically judging if the person is good enough. So one person sees the drawings, and what happens in the process? Every person, every student, when you apply for art school, when you're 18 or 19, let's say, if you show that you have specific style, if you show that you're authentic in the way how you create, you're not accepted. And I find that so fascinating, because in our educational system until now, it was so important to be able and to be receptive to be molded by the system. And that is something that my 12 Orion guides always allowed me to understand as I was going through education. We are being molded by an educational environment, no matter what kind of schooling you went through. We're being molded, and our views of the world are being manipulated. You can see it exactly, for example, in art schools, in architecture schools. I went to one as well, where based on what kind of qualities your teacher has, those are the qualities that you're going to receive. So basically, we mirror the qualities of a teacher. And if the teacher is very invested, if the teacher is very passionate about that, that kind of teacher can basically pinpoint the biggest talents in the group. So that's something that's very necessary to understand for everyone who wants to create new age, new modern schools of the new world, that there are always children. It's been like that since the creation of planet. There are always children in the classroom who have been failed. The children who were expelled, the children who usually sit at the back of the classroom, the children who are hyperactive, they're not listening. Who are these kids? That's a very important question. Once, because I do lots of energy readings, and I have many appointments with people with diverse roles. I worked with many parents and I worked with many teachers. One teacher asked me in our consultation, I want to become a better mentor, but I feel I'm failing because the percentage of the tests that I give, it's of passing is so low. So the teacher that worked with me, she asked herself, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing that needs better approach? Because children are not passing my exams, so something must be wrong. And then I asked her, so when you think about, and that's what I give advice to every mentor and every teacher, if you have a classroom, think about all the names of everyone in your classroom. Think about them all, try to recall all the names. And I promise you, you're always going to forget few names. Those are the children that you're failing. Those are the children that are always being forgotten. And usually in planet Earth, in educational system, we say they're problematic kids or they're extreme talents, but the extreme talent is basically just exceptionally good at being average. So what should we change in our educational system? We should understand that even before connecting with the students, we as teachers, you as mentors and teachers, you should understand your temperament. You should understand your energy. What kind of energy are you what kind of energy are you giving to the classroom? What does your temperament in specific situations tell about you? Because I feel now when we are being so, we understand more about children, how we call them children with specific needs and children who need another approach. We, teachers and mentors who are coming as product of this educational environment, which is failing us, we need to change us as well. We have to start from within, because we cannot educate, we cannot raise children of higher consciousness if we do not allow them to become smarter than us in specific topic. So what I suggest, and my maybe most significant advice for everyone who is involved with any sort of education, try to pinpoint how are you reacting towards your students, because we're all human. We all have our internal emotional processes and the way how we are being receptive towards someone's behavior. And there is always few students who are in a way not understanding their own capabilities. So in understanding our strengths, in understanding as a teachers, as mentors, what is our biggest strength and power, only then can we pinpoint a strength and quality in another person, in our student. So that is something that I feel the world is going to expand and the planet Earth is going to go that way, that we are just trying to recognize each student for who they are and the strength that they have. It should be inspired, it should be fueled by this inspiration and creation in order for them to become exceptionally good at that specific thing. Because on planet Earth, in our schools, we have always had the tests, one specific test that's given to all. And then we have this sort of measurement of our intelligence. If you cannot be good at repetition, if you cannot memorize, you are labeled by Earth society as not intelligent enough. But we have so many autistic children, so many ADHD children, so many children who are specifically extraordinary good at such small a niche that they could become professionals at that. And that is what I feel it's important to basically create curriculum, create a program where a specific student could, in a way, pick what they gravitate to. Because each of us, in that ability to pick and choose, they can understand, okay, so there is a choice. I can go left or I can go right. And that is something, my experience in my education, studying architecture. Of course, we had a program which was for everyone. Everyone had to do certain lectures and programs in order to become an architect. But there were also over 20 subjects which were free to be chosen from. If you want audio production, if you want video production, if you want to learn other languages, you're free to do that. But that kind of things, for example, in myself, I always knew I'm never gonna become an architect. I worked in that field for a few years, but the knowledge of video content and audio content and learning languages inspired me to understand, okay, so this degree that I got is just a ticket for something else. And that's something that we as a collective, we are moving towards that understanding that education nowadays is becoming just a ticket to do great things. Because no matter what kind of education you have, especially if we are talking about new age and modern education that we collectively are trying to create, it's important to create a specific potential for each student to go in different paths. Because we have architecture schools, we have medicine schools, we have art schools, and everyone is just going in one stream. They're trying to be great in that field. But I feel the future of schools on earth is just have this very broad education, which allows this recognition of every student, allowing that student to take what resonates and go in any possible direction, because the foundation of understanding of the personal and intimate greatness is there. And that's what I feel so many students nowadays, sometimes they graduate, but they don't know what they excel at. They don't know what they're good at, because nobody told them. They were just studying for exams. They were just trying to cram so much information, pass the exams. And then we have millions of people who are engineers, who are graduates, and they don't know what is their strength. And I think those are the children that we, in a way, failed. And that is why I feel the biggest difference in this communication between teacher and a student, when we compare the Galactic School and school on planet Earth, is understand your own individuality. In Galactic School, for example, I remember 20 to 30 students, my peers, and we openly talked about soul contracts. It's interesting to know that those children, galactic beings, the galactic children, my peers, we were connected by soul contracts, and we understood now we are learning for the physical reality. Now we are being made aware of the greatness that is to come. So how do we achieve that? We achieve that by being very honest. We achieve that by being specific in this understanding that each of us has some talent, because we cannot be raising children in a society where there is extraordinary talents and there is averageness. That I feel that's behind us, because every person, as I said, has something so valuable that it's so good and it's so extraordinary, amazing, and that quality should never be changed, just fueled and just pushed out to the world, out of this child. So something that we have been learning in the education that we have all been through is discipline. And I feel the discipline to be able to contain so much information is important. It was important to evolve as human beings. But it's interesting to know that the downloading and the discipline that we needed for learning and cramming everything in our minds in Galactic School does not exist. Because what they do, they just place the hand, and I remember placing my hand on a certain source of information, and that has been downloaded to me. So it was instant. Learning was instant because there is no time to waste. And on planet Earth, we have created this society where school, a year to participate in a school, is $30,000. How? Like, how is that possible that we have to pay so much to have the right and the luxury to be educated? And then we strive to become someone in the world, and the whole world is telling us you're average. Something that I will never forget in my life is that I was so afraid when I was in Orion school. I was afraid, how will I act? How will I be in the physical reality where learning is not instant? We have to sit, we have to understand, we have to make mistakes. And the most brutal thing is that we have been taught about authority on planet Earth. Medicine students are one of rare students in educational system who are encouraged to correct the professor. In other universities, that's not really wished. It's even mocked, because we as students, and I know because I was student for a very long time, you aspire to be as good as your teacher. And I feel now we are creating new education where we want to inspire students to become greater than those who teach.
Wow, that's a lot of information. That's good news, actually. That's
Yes,
good news.
exactly.
Ellie, let's go to Karina Rascon. Dear Ellie, how do you remember all that yourself? This is amazing. And I know a lot of people are going to see this program afterwards, and they all, including myself, we ask you that. So we better see
So,
this
how
question
did I
right now.
remember?
Thank you.
I started to remember when I was 19. So I was raised by a very spiritual father who was meditating with me, and he taught me how to meditate. When I was 19, for the first time ever, I entered one meditation with my father. And it was so funny because something that I always something that I always tell to people is that I always write down information that I receive from meditation. And then I go back years later to truly have this broader perspective of information that I received. So when I was 19, I have met my first guide in meditation, and he told me what is going to happen when I was 24. He told me that I'm going to have some issues with my health. He wasn't direct. He didn't say you're going to have issues, prepare for that, of course, because I would be angry. But he says, when the time comes that you have no hair, do not hide. What happens? 5 years later, I'm 24. My hair starts to fall out in patches. And I remember, I just got shivers all over my body. I remember that message, and I'm thinking, when the time comes that your hair falls, do not hide. And that is the moment when I was at my lowest. I was still studying. I was still trying to pursue my dream of becoming an architect. And that was the moment when I was 24. Now I'm about to be 33. So when I was 24, I discovered, okay, so I'm a 24-year-old girl. I have to say goodbye to my looks because I was disappearing. And I understood in all this, I also had digestive system problems, allergy on lactose, allergy on gluten. My body was resisting everything. I started to meditate and I started to remember. Of course, the remembrance process lasted from ages of 24 to 29. I was trying to remember and collect all the data. So, for example, now when I talk about my remembering process, people are like, oh, how do I remember? It sounds amazing. But for me, it went just through this understanding that I should remove all attachment to my physical body and my appearance and truly discovered, who is this girl? Who is this woman? Who am I trying to become? Why am I here? So I started to ask questions when I was so sick and I was basically hating myself. And then easily I was falling in love with the essence, with the fighter, with the warrior that I've become. And I was basically in my meditations collecting more data about my experiences before coming to Earth. And that is why I always invite everyone to truly meditate, but write down your experiences. And that is how you are just going to become better people and have more integrity if you understand what is behind you. And that is what helped me a lot, and what does help me a lot in my coaching programs right now, in my energy scans, because no matter what kind of issue a person that works with me has, I have been there, I have felt it. So that is why it's so important. If you do teach someone about something, learn it first. So I do teach people how to awaken, how to remember, how to be more spiritual, how to basically activate the knowledge, because me myself, I was lost. So that's why I was able to remember. It was a very, very long process, but in a way the easiest process for me ever.
Cecilia is saying, hello, Haley and Naomi. Wow, thanks for this live, and life, I guess. Thank you, Cecilia. And then, we have another one here. Ellie, how can we remember to Karina Rascon, Mexico?
So every time when I talk about me remembering my past lives, first thing that you have to ask yourself, who do you not want to be anymore? Because before remembering who you were, you have to understand where you're now. Because there is always this deep need to associate ourselves with some sort of greatness, with some sort of unconditional love and knowledge and wisdom. We all want that. But the first question is, what kind of emotion do you have now for yourself? You have to discover that to understand what is my vibrational present. If you understand that, and that's for me what I understood, I don't want this body, I don't want this profession, I don't want this life. And that is how I entered meditations. I am detaching myself from it all. I'm not that. So who am I? That is what I feel. Also, I'm going to combine that with the question, advice for young people. We have been all basically made to believe by the world, and the world is defining us. but that is so old earth being defined by the world, because the world doesn't know who you are. In most cases, you don't know who you are. So I feel that is why the most important thing is to just understand your vibrational reality. So the reason why, for example, I always draw the red dots under my eyes, everyone who's seen my pictures or seen my lives always ask me, even people at my work, so what are the dots? What are the points? This is from Orion School, because my Orion mother, my teacher, my vibrational coach, her symbol was the dots under her eyes. And that's when I started my remembering process. I started to draw them, because every time I look at myself, remember to be the higher vibrating being. So anytime when I don't have the dots, I'm not doing well. Why? Because I've been crying and they erased. So everyone who knows me in my personal life, when they see me without the spots, they always say, "Oh, what's wrong? Do you want to talk?" Because they know when I'm doing well, I have the dots drawn on. So that's something very specific to know about Galactic School. One and only role of a galactic teacher, of a galactic mother, even now, because of course she's teaching me even now, she's my vibrational mentor, no matter where in the universe I am. So the teacher never leaves you, and that is something that we have to know. And my experience as well, the teacher never leaves you. You never leave that classroom, because throughout your life it comes to the surface what you have heard, what kind of things the teacher told you, how they what kind of um, energy they gave you. Were they inspiring? Did they inspire you? It always stays within you, and that's something that we as a society, we are basically forgetting to inspire the teachers and the mentors as well, because they feel undervalued, because they don't understand that the teaching is not 4 years, it's whole lifetime, it never leaves you. So I feel the new education is also going to basically put the focus in understanding that every teacher that we manifest in our life, there is a connection. Otherwise, you wouldn't be teaching me. So why are you here? I truly want to understand. And that is why I feel so many people are not inspired by the teacher. And so many teachers are basically giving lectures in half empty classrooms, because the children are not being told that person that dedicated their life to give you knowledge, it's all co-created, it's all pre-planned. With that perspective, I feel there is a uh, um, new family system in educational environment that we have to um, embrace.
Let's go to Cecilia. Vibrational coach, love that, with your hugs. And Cecilia has two questions. I think they go together. Like, thank you, Ellie and Noemi. What is the purpose of remembering for this life on Earth?
The
And the
purpose
other
is,
one, how has remembering helped you in your current reality?
so that is a question that I receive often. Remembering past lives basically allowed me to understand that no matter how bad or dramatic some experience in my life seems, it is all for the highest good. Because I got this broader perspective of even some traumatic experiences, which allowed me to become more layered and person with more integrity, person with open heart, person who understands others, person who wants to be on this planet educating and inspiring people. So that is the whole point of remembering, to be free in the moment, now and here, and not be stuck in the past.
To be free. And if you don't mind, Ailey, we will finish with Karina Rascon, Mexico. Any pieces of advice for young people? Because I think maybe we have many Ailey's in the world, and maybe they want to wake up and they want to follow your path because it's so much needed now. What would you tell the young people who are like you or were like you?
Um, I would say the same advice that I gave myself when I was on the beginning of my journey. Seek out people who you want to associate yourself with, someone who you find great, someone who inspires you, and then research what are they doing to be at the position that they're in, and basically mirror advices that they give you, because there is so much free knowledge and so much information. And that is something that on my path I discovered. Every time I would find someone who inspired me, even if it's just a teacher that I visited a lecture by accident, I would email that teacher and say, I just want you to know that you truly inspired me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So connect with people, tell them they're great, tell them that they inspire you, and ask them, how do I do that? You will never not receive an answer. That's my advice.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's almost 1 hour.
Yes, it
I
looked.
know we could go on, but what if maybe we can invite everybody for the next meeting or encounter or next flow of information? Because it's not an information, it's all together. Maybe you know yourself, go with knowledge, open your heart, higher level of
So
consciousness. There is a
understand,
compound thing here.
I would say the most specific things are: understand your temperament, understand your vibrational presence, your emotion, how you are responding to reality, how you are responding, and what kind of connections are you building with the people around you. Are you being inspired by others, or are you annoyed? And if you're being annoyed, even if you're a teacher or your student, then find those irritating qualities that can help you.
Wow. So what we are going to do, look here, piece 4000, 5000.info Galactic School. We will put all the live program here. You can see them afterwards as well. And we can stop and rewind and listen again and absorb. That is for each one of us, because there is somebody was asking if it is for me or it depends on the age, or let's say somebody of my age will never remember or get this kind of vibration. What do you think? Is it, do we have special age to remember or to co-create this new
I
society
think
through education and the rest?
I think what is basically happening to us right now, to us who are here in this period, we are doing the hardest work, because we are trying to not only remember the strengths, but we have been through the old system. We have been there, we know how it is. So to become, as I said, the product of this planet Earth, and then we are the ones who are generationally, we are so different from each other, and there are so many different generations, and together we are trying to pinpoint what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. And I feel collectively we are opening our hearts more to remember how to create. And I feel in just this process of opening to that potential, solutions are always coming.
Thank you. Well, let's finish again with Cecilia, vibrational coach. Loves that. And remember, everybody, we will go on with this kind of transmission and live programs. And do you want to do the closing words?
The closing words is read books. There is so much knowledge on planet Earth, and I feel reading and researching and just understanding that there is also so much beneficial things from our educational system that we should still use in order to create the new one is something that we should not forget.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody, and thank you, people who are going to see the program or going to see the program afterwards. and see you next time. Thank
See
you for your
you.
time. See you.